everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Direction and Soul Care Sunday Live. So glad that you are with us, either watching on the broadcast or the replay. Woke up this morning to a winter wonderland. It is fluffy snow everywhere. It is a great, bright day. It's the perfect balance of snow, blue skies, sunshine. It's amazing. Tell me about where you are. I see a bunch of us on the call today, on the play today. So put a comment in, say hello, let us know that you're here. We're so glad that you're with us on this beautiful, beautiful Sunday. And it is more beautiful because you are with us. It is like a perfect, perfect day. So much so, I went and got a little hot cocoa. I got my Papa Bear mug. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys today and talk with you and hear from you too in the comments about what we're going to be talking about today, about transforming fear into love, how there's these 4 movements where we set our intention in 4 different ways. And we can transform fear into love. Diane Lopez says, hello from Mountain View, California. So glad that you are with us. I'm going to try something a little different here. I'm going to see if I can display the chat. There, hello from Mountain View, California. That's the thing. Let me see. Let's try it this way. Oh, there it is. Let's try again. Nope. Oh, it's doing a little different. There it is. Sunny and cool, Diane says. There's the chats. Let us know. Put it in there. Let us know where you are and how it is where you are on this beautiful January Sunday morning as we dive into Sunday Live. I'm going to leave the chat overlay up a little bit here. And you guys just can fire in comments as we go. We're going to try something a little different. And yeah, that's cool. Sound good? So as always, as we dive in, just want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube or you know someone who would really benefit from these moments as we gather on Sundays, come and join our growing Facebook community. I want to get us to 600 people. Would love to have you guys be there. It will be awesome. Hello from Naples, Florida. Dorothy Claire, thanks for being here. But join our community, our Facebook page. The more we get, we'll start doing some cool stuff over there as well, places to connect and support each other, as well as you can always check out spiritualdirectionandsoulcare.com, and you can learn about our soul care program where you get a one-on-one sessions with me, where we dive deep into spiritual direction, soul care, and support, and as always, getting insanely practical tools for the spiritual journey. Carol Kuiper, so glad you're with us from Grand Rapids. You probably have similar weather to us. So it is beautiful today. I'm actually loving the snow, and I don't really always love the snow, but I'm loving it today. So today, just keep those comments coming as we go. And so today I wanted to talk about transforming fear into love, 4 movements of transforming fear into love. And I think this is, I'll say some stuff about like how fear is a thing. It's always a thing for a lot of us. Fear is something that we all have to face and deal with. But I started thinking about this because some of you may have known that in the last few days, the spiritual teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, who was friends with Martin Luther King Jr., he finally died in his early 90s in the last couple days. And was just thinking about how he taught a lot about how to have an engaged spirituality that can help support your faith, support your spiritual growth, support your God devotion, how to teach you to be more peaceful, to be more loving, to be less fearful, to be more joyful. He was a really wise guy, and he talked a lot about how to be present to the moment and how to be present even in our fears. And so kind of being inspired by him, I wanted us to talk about how do we transform fear into love. You know, it's been said that when you love someone, the best thing you can offer that person is your presence, And that I think goes for ourselves as well. There's so much talk about love yourself, but then we don't talk about how to do it, right? Or we talk about like self-care things like, get a massage or exercise, eat right, things like that, right? But there's also just like a mindset, right, of being present, fully present with a person, being fully present to yourself. And that is really the essence of love, right? where a person's relieved of any need of pretending. They're fully who they are, and you're fully present with them. And you can extend that to yourself. That's the beauty of a lot of what we're going to talk about. Like, if you're struggling with loving yourself and learning to love yourself because of, shame, or the stories you've been told, or the stories you believe, or the stories you've created, whatever it is, or the experiences you've had. Maybe you've gone through traumatic experiences and you have that, trauma really expresses itself as a restriction, that you feel restricted. Your full self feels restricted. Maybe you feel restricted from yourself, right? Learning to love oneself, being present to oneself, learning, like we always say, that you are worthy of your own attention, right? This is how we love. So the great writer Hannah Arendt said that fearlessness is what love seeks. Fearlessness is what love seeks. And she says that that kind of fearlessness exists only in the complete calm that can no longer be shaken by events expected of the future. So the only valid tense for her is the present, the now. So being present right now, being present to ourselves, right? Right? Some of y'all are loving this today. So keep these comments coming. I love it. Yes. So the idea of presence, as the antidote to fear, right? As the cure for fear, right? And even some people call the crucible of love. Right? This is not a new idea. This has been around for forever, I'm going to have a sip of this hot cocoa because it smells so good, you guys. And I might have put a little something in it too, just a little something, to grown up hot chocolate on this beautiful day. That's part of my self-care, right? So we think about this idea of presence is really, really important. And we see this in literature. We see this in movies. We see this in songs. We see this in philosophy. We see this in all the great religious traditions, right? In the Christian tradition, we talk about in the presence of God, at God's right hand, are pleasures, right? And joy, right? That the very nearness of the divine is our good. In the deep tradition of the Orthodox tradition, the Eastern Orthodox tradition, right? They really celebrate nativity. They have a song, there's a Russian Orthodox choral song called Salvation is Created, that just God just showing up, divinity just showing up and being present is all the healing that you need, right? Before you get to anything else that the Master Jesus does, right? Just being born and being present, God being present, being with, right? The God called Emmanuel, the God with us, right? The presence alone, without doing anything else, is a kind of healing and transformation, right? So I love this. It's in everything. We see this in every great tradition. We see this everywhere, right? And one of the things that Thich Nhat Hanh taught us is the idea of befriending then the complexity, right? Befriending the complexity of our feelings, befriending the complexity of what we are, befriending the complexity of our lives by simply being present to it, right? And he says this: we have a great habitual fear inside ourselves. We're afraid of many things, of our own death, of losing our loved ones. We're afraid of change, of being alone. And so the practice of presence, of mindful presence, helps us to touch non-fear. I love that, fear and non-fear. It's only here and now in the present that we can experience total relief, total happiness. So in spiritual practices, we see that all our mental formations, including good things like compassion and love, but even fear and sorrow and despair, these are just very natural. We don't need to be afraid of them because transformation is always present in every single one of them. So why don't you throw it in the chat? Tell me that thing, right? Tell me that mental formation you have. Maybe you're really, really focused on a vacation that's coming up and you can't wait and you're really excited and you just cannot wait to just be on a beach somewhere or go hiking or whatever it is that you do. Good or even what is difficult for you, right? What are the mental formations that you're really focusing in on right now in this moment in your life, just this week, maybe just today even, right? What are those? And do you see those as possibilities of transformation? Where do you see these, right? Throw those in the chat while we keep talking, right? And so this transformation that we're talking about is possible through our practices, through our prayers, through our meditation, through the intentions we set, through the actions that we take, right? And so how do we do this when it comes to transforming our fears into love, right? Into love. Thich Nhat Hanh also said that to love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love. To love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love. And so transforming fear into love is also part of us really learning the nuts and bolts of what it means to love, the how to love, right? How to love, how to love. Jill says that she's thinking about wholeness and healing right now, right? Those are words full of potential. Those are words that are all about transformation, right? But so transforming fear into love is really about learning how to love in many ways so that we don't wound the person that we love so deeply, the person across from us, whether it's a loved one, a partner, a child, a family member, a coworker, right? Because like, I know y'all, like even when people are hard to work with, like, or there's someone that comes into your place of work that's difficult or whatever, right? At the end of the day, everything we're doing is about love. Right? So whether it's the person across from you, the person closest to you, the person in the mirror, right? We're learning how to love. And that's what these practices, these movements of transformation from fear to love really help us get down to the nitty gritty of what it means, because where we need love most is when we're most afraid. Where we need love most is when we're most anxious. Where we need love most is when we're feeling isolated. Where we need love most is when we feel separated deeply from ourselves, right? Like where all these things that produce anxiety and fear for us, right? So these four movements are the key to transformation, right? He calls this they're effective for watering the seeds of happiness in yourself and in your beloved, and for transforming fear and suffering and loneliness. Fear and suffering and loneliness. We want to transform these things. We've got some great comments in here. I see Mark saying, I have such deep-rooted habits of thinking about shame and guilt that have been so ingrained in my early childhood. I'm finding that with therapy and an amazing wife, I can name when those other habits come up, acknowledge them, and work on moving on from them. Yes, this is good. This is really, really good. I love this. Thank you for like opening up. You're always so vulnerable. There's always so much wisdom in this community on Sundays. I love it. I look forward to hearing from you guys. So please keep the comments coming, keep the sharing coming. I love it. We all need each other in this. And that's part of being present to each other, is being really present on this broadcast, and engaging, whether even if you're listening on the replay, put your comments in, because we look back on them and we keep tabs on how the community is doing. We pray for you guys, all of that. Right. So these four movements we're talking about, right? These four movements are really about setting our intention, right? It's this insanely practical tool, right? That's deeper than just prayer, right? Like prayer is key, right? Prayer, centering prayer, or prayer where you're talking and naming things. This is a key practice for the spiritual life, right? Prayer channels a hope, right? It channels hope at, your primary conception of the divine, right? It channels our hopes toward God, toward the Spirit, right? Whatever your chosen vocabulary is for the ultimate reality, the ultimate one to whom we belong, right? And we channel that hope in a way many times in prayer where we're asking for intercession, right? We're asking for support. We're asking for an intervention of some kind in our lives, right? And prayer also, from just a psychological neuroscience standpoint, right? Like it gives us self-clarification, right? Because we hear ourselves clarifying and zoning in, honing in our hopes, right? With language. But today, what I'm talking about is these movements. And sometimes they use a practice called a mantra, and a mantra is basically a very distilled prayer. It's like a single phrase prayer that like centers and focuses our intention, like centers and focuses and sets a direction within ourselves, right? You see this in the Christian tradition and in like ancient prayers like the Jesus prayer, where people would say repeatedly, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, right? Or in other traditions where they'd start a prayer with the phrases, holy God, holy and mighty, holy immortal one, have mercy on us, right? Like these are dense, terse focuses of intention and desire. That's what these 4 movements are. They're choices to focus and to address the beloved across from you, the one who you love, right? Or the one in the mirror. Right? Or even sometimes you have to set these intentions quietly in your own heart with the difficult boss or the difficult coworker or the coworker or colleague in need, right? Like I work at a hospital and I am surrounded by colleagues and families and patients who are experiencing profound need and stress and full of deep anxieties and fears because of so many different things, not the least of which is the ongoing pandemic and how it's impacting people and harming people, right? So like sometimes I don't say these things directly to people, but I set these intentions in my own heart and I direct that in my posture and my attitude toward the person where we're sending out this kind of love, right? To address and counteract the energy of their fear, right? So there's so many different ways we can use these 4 movements. Does this make sense? Are you kind of picking up what I'm putting down here? All right. So Pam Wittenberg says, with the sudden death of my great niece, 5 weeks old, passed away from SIDS on January 1 this year. I'm really sorry to hear this. It reminds me of how precious life is and how unpredictable. I'm learning to live more in the moment and be present, be grateful and count my blessings. I love that, Pam. And come and share with us more too about how this practice of being present to yourself, how you find it sustaining you in the days ahead as you do your grief journey. I love this. And, everyone on this broadcast or replay, you can look at if you're following on Facebook, like look at Pam's picture and hold Pam in your heart right now and her family and especially her niece. So I'm assuming your sister or brother's daughter, hold that whole family. Just right now, we're just going to hold you in love and we're just going to send healing and love and be present to you. I don't think we have to be immediately in each other's presence. I think we can send out this deep spiritual energy that is within us, the spirit that is within us, and connect. I feel we're all connected, And so we're just sending healing and love to you, Pam. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, right? Thank you for sharing your wisdom of how you're accessing the healing power and resources that's already within you, right? Like you have this power within you. So I love this. I absolutely, absolutely love this. Thank you for being vulnerable. You honor us with your wisdom and your openness. This is really good. This is really good. Being present, right? So let's talk a little bit about these 4 movements that set our intention to be very present and focused on the ones who we want to love, right? And again, like I've said, it's even for yourself, right? Right. So let's do the first one, right? The first movement is to offer your presence. Okay. Offer your presence. Offer your presence. Offer your presence. Let's see what we have to say about this. So think about this. So there was a writer named Simone Weil, and it's spelled it Weil. I would highly encourage you guys to look up and learn about her. Her life was remarkable. Her writing about the spiritual life is remarkable. She says that paying attention, giving our attention to another is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And so this first movement is to simply focus on the beloved, on the one whom you want to love. And you simply say, dear one, I am here for you. Those are the words. That's the terse distillation, right? That focuses you down, says, I am here for you. Dear one, I am here for you. We watch a lot of Master Chef Junior in our house with the kids, and Gordon Ramsay's on there, and he's known for being so mean, but he is like really great with these kids on the show. And even when a kid gets kicked off the show and loses a round, he'll say, "Come here, my darling. Come here, my darling." Or he'll go say, "What are you cooking, my darling?" And I love the open kindness and love. Right? Just this open-hearted love. And it's like, we shouldn't just like talk that way with little ones, right? We should talk that way with each other. How are you doing, my darling? Like, it's just like, and we should see ourselves this way. You are your own beloved, right? Loving yourself and saying, "I'm here for you." That could sound weird when you're trying to when you're feeling really anxious, but to like step outside of yourself and to see yourself and say, "I'm here for you," right? Speak to yourself as you would speak to a friend. Right? I've said this to you guys before. But the first movement is to say, "I'm here for you. I'm here for you," to offer your presence. To offer your presence, right? Like, and as we do this, it actually cultivates our capacity to be present, right? We set our intention to say, "I'm going to be present right now." Just like Pam is saying, even in the midst of grief, I have resources of gratitude and presence that I can choose to do. And that is growing her capacity to integrate her grief. That's growing her capacity to navigate her pain and then to be a healing presence with her family who's also grieving and in pain. See? So these kinds of movements are not just about like flipping switches and trying to like feel better really quick, right? It's about growing our capacity to live not in fear, but to live in love, to live not to move into non-fear, as we were saying, right? Like it's not enough to just say, "I don't want to be afraid." It's like, I want to be in a present. I want to cultivate a presence and a posture of non-fear, right? Which this is an active way of being. Right? It's not just the absence of fear, but it's something that is not fearful, right? It is courage. It is loving courage. It is loving kindness. It's full. It's active. It's not just sweeping away the bad stuff. It's filling it with an active spiritual energy that is healing and empowering for us. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down on this? Does this make sense? So we offer our presence. We offer our presence. We offer our presence to the one who who is suffering, the one who is full of fear. We look in the mirror, we offer it to ourselves, and we say, "I'm here. I'm going to pay attention to myself right now. I'm going to support myself right now. I'm going to access the wisdom and the gifts and the resources and skills that I have waiting within me," right? Make sense? Oh man, I'm loving this today, you guys. I'm so loving this. And the sun is breaking out outside. And the clouds, it's blue sky with patchy clouds, and the clouds have all gone away, and the sun just like opened up. I just feel like I'm having an epiphany. So I don't know if this is maybe just for me today, but I'm so glad you get to witness it for me. Tell me how you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me how this is impacting you too, right? Tell me what you think about this idea of being present, right? Actively, intentionally saying, "I am here for you." Right? I'm here for you, right? So we're growing our capacity for love. We're growing our capacity, right? To move into non-fear. And we need to do this because it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult to just live against kind of the tidal waves of demands and distractions that always sweep through everyday life, right? And sweep us along with it, that make us feel like we're being dragged along in life, right? Like everything's out of control. Where you feel like you're, like on the brink of drowning, right? Where you just feel like you're just going to get overwhelmed. Who is it? Tolstoy, the great Russian writer, right? He said, "Love is a present activity only," right? So love is about being present. The greatest thing that we can offer ourselves and each other is presence. This is the first, most baseline expression of what it means to love, right? It's not just about ushy, gushy, mushy feelings and deep affection. It's activity. It's activity, right? The greatest resource of our own heart, our greatest source of power, right? The mightiest cure to fear is the quality of love we give through the quality of our presence. The quality of our presence. Thich Nhat Hanh said that when you love someone, the best thing you can offer that person is your presence. How can you love if you are not there? So come back to yourself, look into their eyes and say, "Dear one, you know something? I'm here for you." And he says that you're offering them your presence. You're not preoccupied with the past or the future. You are there for your beloved. And you say this with your body and with your mind at the same time. And then you see transformation. Just that alone, right? This is the great insight in the Christian tradition that we were talking about earlier, right? God just shows up and says, dear ones, you know something? I'm here. You are not alone. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. The last things Jesus says before he ascends, right? I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Even as he's leaving, he says, but I'll send you what? I'll send you power and I'll give you my very presence, the Spirit of God. So he never really left, right? This is the deep healing power. Just this mantra alone, just this movement alone is like, we could talk about this all day, you guys, right? You know? So this kind of clarity about presence is really, really key for the next movement, okay? The next movement. The next movement is where we recognize the other. Recognize the other, okay? Recognizing the other. So I'm seeing some comments come in. I'll come back to them in a minute, but let's dive into this part here, okay? Recognizing the other. The second thing we say as we're here present with people, right, is to say, dear one, I know you are there. I know you're before me. And I'm so happy. A shorter way to even say is like, I see you. I see you. And this is kind of what we've talked about the last few weeks about miracles, right? Everyone in front of us is a miracle. So like, this is about recognizing, and I would even say delighting in the fact that the other person is there. Or looking in the mirror and delighting in what you see. No matter what people say, no matter how you feel, right? I see you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I get to be in your presence, right? You don't just say, I'm present and I'm here, but man, I want to be here, right? I'm not tolerating this. I'm not doing this for you because you need help and you're the person who has needs and I'm kind of holding my nose or whatever it is, right? I'm not just accepting you. I'm celebrating you. I'm so glad you are you and you are with me and I get to be with you, right? See, to be there is the first step, right? And recognizing the presence of the person, right? Delighting in that presence of your beloved. That's the second step. Because if you are fully there, you recognize the presence of your beloved is something that's a treasure. It's precious, right? So when you embrace the one across from you in your actions, your words, your deeds, right? You do this with this full attention, right? And when you do this, it heals people. It's healing. They flourish, they bloom, right? Right? To be loved means, first of all, to even be recognized as existing. This is why we see in so many cultural conversations that we have, why representation matters, all of this, right? It's not just about politics. It's not just about making sure that different groups are seen and known and it's about actually something so much deeper. It's about loving people. It's about being a loving society, right? It's about acknowledging the existence of people as they are so that they can flourish. Right? It's not just about balance of power in our culture. It's about just loving each other, right? When you really see that person and you embrace them, you see them where they are, whether they're in pain, full of fear, full of anxiety, or even joy and celebration, and you embrace them and you're there with them in it. And you want to, it's like what the Bible says about rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. When you're fully present in this way, they bloom, they flourish, they unfold, they become more deeply and more powerfully themselves, That's really the truth. I remember there was a family that came to the hospital this week and their mom had died early in the early hours of the morning. And so her adult daughter came later in the day because she had been mistakenly told that she would be able to still connect with coming and saying goodbye to her mom. But it was many hours later and her mom had been taken away already. And so they needed some help with connecting with the funeral home and understanding that process. And so as we were talking about that, they were very understanding and was connecting with them. And, and I said, it's really important for you to be able to connect. She's like, yeah, I want to say goodbye to my mom. I was like, right, because there's nobody like your mom. And she immediately tears welled up, because she felt seen, because that she knew that that's the truth. That's that deep universal truth that she was feeling in a deep personal way. And she needed somebody outside to be present and with her and say, I see you. I see you. And I'm glad to be here in this moment to recognize what you're experiencing. Right. And so as we started wrapping up with some other colleagues and stuff, I just kind of sidled over to her in the lobby and I just kind of put my arm around her. And this happens so many times where, like, when you are present to someone in their grief, when you're present to someone in their fear, when you're present to someone, because grief has so much fear. Like, am I going to be alone? Am I going to be okay? Am I lost? Right? Will I ever feel better again? Will I ever be able to enjoy life again? Right? Like, grief is full of fears. And it's like when we are present with that and we see that and we say, hey, I see you, I see where you're at, and I'm with you. Right? Like, so many times, people I've never met before until like within an hour or so, or literally just in a few moments before, they will go in for hugs. They will receive hugs and they will lean in like you've been friends for decades, right? Like they've known you for decades. Like you become instantly part of your family, right? Because you are already part of a family. We are all connected. We're part of this deep human family that's connected in this deeply spiritual way, right? And so like these movements break open our deepest, truest selves as human beings, what we're meant to be for each other and with each other. Does this make sense? So it's powerful. It's really powerful, you know? So let me see some comments here. Mark said about the last movement, honestly, being present is a new concept for me. It shouldn't be. But why shouldn't it? Don't do that to yourself. Maybe if it is, it is. It's new, then let's embrace the newness. Don't say that it shouldn't be new to you. If it's new to you, it's new to you, right? You know? Um, So, but even starting simple, listening to my body. Am I full? Why am I feeling lightheaded? Am I thirsty? It sounds so simple, but when it's not practiced, it is hard to be present with that. I'm trying. I love it. I love it. Like, and I love that you zero in on like being present at the very level of your body, right? Instead of saying, how am I feeling? And then I'm carrying it tense in my back, like do it the other way. Say, why is my shoulder tense? What are the emotions I'm assigning and to these tense shoulders or this churning in my stomach, right? Do it the other way. You're on perfect track, Mark. I love that. I absolutely love that. Tina says, Nathan, you have a special gift for recognizing the presence of others. I always felt I had your attention with you. Oh, I thank you. I really appreciate that. I love you. You are so great anyway. And not just because you're saying nice things. That means a lot. I've always said that, like, I think I've really realized this year that my main thing in life is I just want everyone to feel connected and cared for. That's really a driving value for me. And so I'm so glad that um, that impacted you in a positive way. So that's wonderful. Terry says, such appropriate lesson. My wife and I are mourning, got life altering news, much hurt and fear right now. Oh, let's just send love out, right? Yeah, Pam's already on it. She's saying prayers for you both. Let's send this stuff out, right? Like, send more love, even on the replay. Like, send love to Terry and her wife. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like it's hard. And we see you. We are here with you. I'm so glad you are here on this call and on this broadcast. I love it. I hope that we can send good and healing energy. I hope that you can feel seen and known and know that this is a safe place, even in its digital form. And someday we'll all be together, right? Someday, like I've said before, we'll figure out a way to get us safely face to face. Big spiritual direction, soul care, first time in person family reunion kind of thing. I would love to do that. So just sending all the love to you, Terry, right now. All of the community is. So Diane has a question about Thich Nhat Hanh's book, how it covers these 4 movements. I will send a link at the end if I find it here. I'll send a link here. I put a link in. A great place to start is his little tiny how-to series. I've been reading for the last couple months, flipping through his book called How to Love. There are these little tiny books called How to Love, How to Relax, How to whatever, right? And they're like little 1-page blurbs. I would even start with just How to Love. It's easy dive into some of his thoughts. So yeah, that is awesome. So let's talk about the third movement. Okay. Let's keep moving along here. The third movement. this third movement, is offer relief of suffering. Offer to relieve suffering, right? And this can be extended across the digital distance even, right? Because of that deep connection that we all have, right? Thich Nhat Hanh says, even before you do anything to help, your wholehearted presence already brings some relief, because when we suffer, we have great need for presence of the person we love, right? Who's that person that you think of when you're hurting, that you just wish you had around, that you just, a hug from them would mean the most, right? Maybe it's a person that isn't available anymore, right? But maybe they are really available still in the spirit, right? I think of my dad, right? Who I miss every day, right? He says, if we're suffering and the person we love ignores us, we suffer more. So what can you do right away is to manifest your true presence to your beloved and say, with all your mindfulness, dear one, I know you are suffering. That is why I am here for you. And already your loved one will feel better, right? So it's like doubling down on not only being present, not only being glad and and recognizing the person that I'm glad it's you, I'm glad to be with you, but I also get what's going on for you. I understand you're afraid. I understand you're fearful. I understand you're grieving. I understand you're angry. I understand you're physically suffering. I understand you're sad. I understand that, and that's why I'm here, because I'm in it with you. Like Jill always says that to people when they're hurting. She's like, we're in this with you, right? I'm in it. I'm in it with you. It's one of the most powerful ways. It's another way to express this movement, right? I'm not just here and it's not just fun, but I'm actually going to suffer alongside you. I'm going to journey with you, right? I not only delight in you for who you are, but I get that you're actually going through something, right? And that's why I'm here, because of that something. Nhat Hanh says your presence is a miracle. Your understanding of their pain is a miracle. And you're able to offer this aspect of your love immediately. And he says, really try to be there, right? Really try to be there for yourself, for life, for the people you love. Recognize the presence of those who live in the same place as you and try to be there when one of them is suffering, because your presence is so precious for that person. So some of this too is being confident and understanding who you are for someone, right? Right? Like you might be suffering or fearful or hurting, and you really wish that one person was here that that you just need their support. Well, be that person, right? Be that person for someone else, he's saying too, because you are that person for someone else. You don't just need that person, right? You not only need the support, but you can be that support to others, right? So this is all about this give and take, right? This growth, this movement, this growing capacity, understanding that's not all one way, right? But that we're actively involved in these movements of transformation of our fears into love by loving in the most practical ways of being present and seeing, right? And then the fourth and final movement is called asking for help, right? It's called asking for help. Just ask for help. Like a lot of times we see this as really practical, but this is like one of the most loving things you can do for yourself, right? This is love, to ask for help. It's not just about being brave. It's not just about cultural expectations of performance of what it means to be a put together adult. It's being loving. It's because it all comes back to love, right? It all comes back to love, right? The asking for help, right? And that can seem on the surface too, because some of us were raised in religious spaces where asking for help or acknowledging anything that you needed or anything was considered being selfish, right? It can seem on the surface selfish or self-concerned, but it is out of the work of self-care, right? From which all our other unselfish love and presence spring. When we know that we've cared for ourselves, when we know that we have built ourselves up, and we know that we have given and fed ourselves, right? Like you would never not eat, right? For weeks and weeks because it's selfish to eat, right? You wouldn't do that, right? It's the same thing for your soul, man. You know what I mean? Like you would never do that, right? Like you wouldn't do it with food, don't do it with love, right? Don't do it with food, don't do it with love. You wouldn't do that with sleep. You know that you can't go too long without enough sleep. Like don't do that for love, for yourself. Don't feed yourself, right? Spiritually. Like feed yourself. Give yourself rest in your soul, right? So that you can access and give all the love and presence that we're talking about in these first three movements, right? So this fourth movement, while it's like it's not the last thing you do, right? It's really actually the first thing you do. It's key that you do all the time, right? That you have a structure of caring for yourself and asking for the help you need when you hit when you hit your limit, and when you know you can't do more and you need extra help, you ask for help, right? And if you model this, it gives permission to everyone around you to ask for help too, right? When they see people boldly saying, hey, it's not selfish to ask for help, right? So this is though, it has been said, like I'm saying, is probably the most difficult of the four movements, right? Because this movement lives and springs from the place of our most deepest, greatest vulnerability, you know? And at the same time, it pushes us to lean on the things that can really hold us back the most, you know? So this movement is for when you are suffering, right? Or when you believe that the one you love has maybe caused you suffering, right? If someone else had done something that hurt you, you might suffer less, right? Because it's not a person you're invested in or who is as important, right? But this is really important when you feel like the person that you love the most has hurt you, right? So you're suffering pretty deeply, and the last thing you feel like doing is to ask that person for help, right? So then what becomes really your pride, right, becomes an obstacle to reconciliation and healing, right? And, you know, according to all the great traditions, right, all the great traditions, in true love, there's no place for pride. We have to lay our pride aside. We need to go to the people we love and ask for their help. That's true love. Don't let pride keep you apart, you know, but go to the ones who love you, even if they're the ones who have hurt you, and ask for their help, right? Say, I'm suffering, please help, right? It's simple, but it's hard to do. It's simple, but it's hard to do. And man, I am seeing some comments here. People are sharing right now. Judy says, my mother recently passed. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear this. I've been anticipating the financial chaos after her death for years. As she approached death in a hospice, a beautiful calm overtook her and myself. And then when she finally passed, all financial fears in me that had tried to distract and make me unpresent popped like a bubble. I realized that both me and my mom had stepped into the now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love that. See, you're living in these movements, and see how it transformed your fear into just love, right? You've experienced what I'm talking about, right? How many of you have experienced what I've talked about in some of these movements? I think all of us have had a taste of each of these somewhere, or we're hoping for, right? Diana Lopez says, I have trouble asking for help. I just don't want to bother people, right? Right? Like, I just don't want to bother people, but you are not a bother, right? So part of transforming those fears of being a bother into love is exploring, like, who told you that you were a bother? Who told you you were? Who told you that you were a burden, right? Right? Where is that written? Right? Mark says, asking for help is one of the hardest things for me to do. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I'm wired this way, but I'm learning that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. It is okay. And it's not only okay, it's essential, y'all. It's essential, especially if you want to deeply connect with those who you love most, right? And if you want to be a healing, transformative presence, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you, right? To really show love to everyone all around us. That's really it, right? So we have these four movements. Offer your presence, recognize the other, the beloved, or delight in the other, right? be explicit and clear, offer relief of suffering, offer help, right? And don't forget to ask for help. Make sure that you're getting cared for too, right? Don't let pride get in the way. Don't let fear get in the way, right? But be loving and be open to love. See, that's one of the hardest things I think too, is like, it's really easy for us to help others. It's always easier for us to help others. It's hard to be the one who's helped. Like, this is not original to me, right? It's hard to be the one who is getting the help. It's embarrassing. It can make us feel like we're the person with the problem, whatever it is, right? But that's just ego getting in the way, And maybe sometimes that's also for a sense of powerfulness, right? Like, it's always better to be the person who's dishing out the help, right? Because that means you're the one who has the power. You're the one who has the resources. But it's hard to acknowledge that we're weak, or to be the person who might need help today or tomorrow or all week or for a whole lifetime, right? This is the reason why it's important for us to like spend time, especially with the aging and the disabled and the differently abled. This is the reason why it's really important for us to spend time with and have resources for people who are struggling with mental health or neurodivergent populations, right? Because their very way of living oftentimes puts them in a position that is asking for us to support. And it's always hard to be the person who's needing accommodations, right? It could feel humiliating, but they're gifts to us because eventually we're all going to need help. I don't know. I need help every day, right? And we're all being pushed all the time. See, that's one of the biggest reasons why we have to transform fear into love, is because we're being constantly pushed in all the messages around us and the way our culture expects production and all these things. Like, we're being constantly pushed to have it all together, and somehow like it's wrong or bad if you're not put together. And the reality is nobody's put together. Nobody's put together. Nobody really is. And it's exhausting to try to have to be like successful enough, beautiful enough, clear skin enough, skinny enough, like all, like have enough money, have the nicest house, like all of it, right? Like, it's just weird the way we put pressure on ourselves, right? And it's all driven by this weird egocentric fear that isn't helping, right? So go spend time. Go spend time with the most vulnerable, not so that you can be over them and help them and show that you're a good person, but maybe to learn from them, to be present for them. That's the reason why Jesus spent so much time with the poor and people on the margins. That's why Jesus spent time with the people who everybody believed wasn't good enough, or bad or worthless, right? That's why Jesus hung out with tax collectors and sex workers and barren women and disabled people and the poor, right? In his day, not because he was over them, but because he was showing us that somehow God is manifest. God's own love is most manifest in those very spaces from those people. Go there to spend time with them, not only to help them flower and unfold and bloom as they're seen and recognized and delighted in, but also go there to be humble enough to learn from them and to receive their wisdom, right? The wisdom and that they've learned to live, embracing the very presence of the God who is vulnerable, right? That's really it. It's this huge journey of give and take, and that's what transforms us. Transforming fear into love. Transforming fear into love. That's it. That's really the way we do it. Charlene says, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, meaning definition, to improve one's situation through hard work and self-determination rather than getting assistance from someone else. This expression originated in the 1800s. It refers to the ability of a person to lift himself or herself up by pulling on the laces of her boots, which is impossible. Very American, but not Christian or spiritually insightful. That is a great, great word. That is a true, true word, right? We're invited into vulnerability. We're invited into obscurity. We're invited into honesty about where we are and what we need. And every time we do that, we're inviting people into these four movements: to be present, to delight in us no matter our condition, right? And to offer help. It's pretty cool. So, spiritual direction, soul care. I love you guys so much. That is our time today. I hope that this conversation is one that you'll come back and watch the video a bunch of times, take notes, that sort of thing, look back, call me if you want to have contact me, reach out to me. If you want to have a soul care session, we can talk more about these 4 movements of transformation. I hope that these 4 movements have given you, just some really practical ways to engage in this space for us to really get an imagination for transformation and to grow deeper in our spiritual lives, to grow deeper and more connected with the Spirit, with God, and with each other. I absolutely love this community so much. I'm so thankful for each one of you. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week. Next week, we are probably going to have a special treat on who is presenting next week. So keep an eye out for that and be looking around for more information as we post information about next week's Sunday Live. Thank you guys so much for being with us. It was a great time being together. I am so thankful for each one of you. Appreciation right back at you. And I'm so thankful for the insight and the vulnerability and the wisdom in this community. Let's keep inviting our friends and let's get together every Sunday Live, 2 p.m., Spiritual Direction, Soul Care. And let's have a great week as we live intentionally and focused, as we offer our love to others and transform and get healed and be healers together. I love you guys so much. Have a great, amazing week. We'll see you next Sunday.